we discussed about present perfect continuous. In today's lesson, we are still on tenses, but we'll be looking at the present perfect and past simple with for. So past perfect shows an action that has a connection to the present. For example, when you're talking about this one here, she has been the chairperson of the budget committee for 5 years. Now this one, in simple terms, what it means is that this person here is still the chairperson of the budget committee. She was, and she is still the chairperson of the budget committee. But what about this one? He was the governor of Wajale for 2 years. What it means is that this person is no longer the governor, but remember, he was once the governor. For how long? 2 years. But right now, this person is no longer the governor. He was, but right now, he's not. So we'll be looking at some examples of sentences that are in past simple, and we'll change them in present perfect. So look at the first one here. I attended the camp for 2 weeks. This sentence is in past simple. So change it in present. If in present to be, I have attended the camp for 2 weeks. Next. The author was here for 6 weeks. Change that sentence in present perfect. It will be, the author has been here for 6 weeks. Next. I worked here for 10 years. I worked here for 10 years. So what will it be in present perfect? To be, I have worked here for 10 years. More examples. She lived in Buni for a year. She lived in Buni for a year. The answer, she has lived in Buni for a year. Remember, she has lived in Buni for a year is in present perfect. She lived in Buni for a year. It is in past simple. Remember, past simple is an action that has already happened, and is no longer, we're no longer talking about it in present. That one, it happened and it ended. But present perfect, we are talking about an action that started and is still going on. It has an effect to the present. So she has lived in Buni for a year. This sentence now, it means, what it means is that this person is still living in Buni. But look at this. She lived in Buni for a year. This person no longer lives in Buni. So you are supposed to do an exercise, or there's some work on page 140 in the primary, in the new progressive primary English, new progressive primary English pupils book 8 on page 140. You have to do from number 1 to number 10. If you have not done that work, go to that page and do that work. Thereafter, you come back and check if you did the right thing or not. So you better do the exercise, then come back and check if you understood the lesson or not. For those who did the exercise, let's go through the exercise so that we see if what you did was right or not. I'm starting from question 5. Question 5 reads, the monument was maintained for 4 years. The monument was maintained for 4 years. Remember, this sentence here is in past simple. So you're supposed to change that sentence in present perfect. What is it going to be? Let's look at the answer. The monument has been maintained for 4 years. The monument has been maintained for 4 years. Now look, the monument has been maintained for 4 years, and this monument is they are still maintaining it. They're still maintaining this monument. But in the first one here, it means this monument, they no longer maintain it. It's already in the past. Next, I used the car for 5 years. What will it be? I have used the car for 5 years. Next, Mr. Muita taught at Isbania Primary School for 6 months. Now remember, in this sentence, this person is no longer here. Is no longer at Isbania. Is no longer there. But remember, this person was there. For how long? 6 months. Now in present perfect, what we say, we say Mr. Muita has taught at Isbania Primary for 6 months. Next, try that one. He served as the county governor for 4 years. Try that one. Okay, if he answers like that, then you are correct. So read after me. He has served as the county governor for 4 years. He has served as the county governor for 4 years. So go through it. Next question. I jogged every morning for years. I jogged every morning for years. The answer, I have jogged every morning for 4 years. Next question. We bought vegetables at the market for 8 weeks. The answer, we have bought vegetables at the market for 8 weeks. Remember, we bought vegetables at the market for 8 weeks. It means we no longer buy vegetable. We no longer get our vegetables at that market. But remember, we've been buying there for 8 weeks, but we stopped this one here. That is in past simple. But the second one here, we have bought vegetables at the market for 8 weeks. What it means is that we bought the vegetables and we are still buying there. So it's an action that leads us to the present. An action that leads us to the present. Okay, so remember, what did we say? Present perfect. This is an action that has a connection to the present. But past simple is an action that does not have any connection to the present. It happened and ended. It happened and it ended. Okay? It happened and it ended. I was. But right now, I am not. Past perfect. I was. I was. But that's I was in past. Present perfect. I am. I have been. I have been. So, like the way we said in this sentence here, the monument has been maintained for 4 years. They're still maintaining it even to the present. Look at this one. I have used the car for 5 years. We are still using the car. I've used that car for 5 years, but I'm still using it. In our next lesson, we'll be looking at present perfect continuous. But remember here, we'll be adding there for and since. For and since. Thank you for listening and have a good day. The third lesson, we are supposed to look at present perfect continuous plus for or since. So let's start the lesson. Remember, this work is the one that I gave you. You wrote it in your exercise book, so check where you went wrong and correct it. Now, since is used to show when an action started happening. When an action started happening. Was it on Thursday? Was it in April? Was it in May? Was it in 2019? Was it in March? Or was it in January? So when an action started happening. An example. Look at the example. It has been raining since 10 o'clock. It's still raining now, but remember it started when? 10 o'clock. The exact time that it started. Next. We have been learning English since preschool. When did you when did you start learning English? Since preschool. That's where it started. What about for? For is used to show how long something has been happening. How long has it been happening? Is it 2 months? Is it 3 years? Are we talking of 4 hours? Are we talking about maybe 3 weeks? So how long? An example, it has been raining for 1 hour. The period for 1 hour. Next, we have been learning English for 9 years. The period is 9 years. Next, if this exercise here, you are supposed to have done this exercise in your exercise book. It is on page 141. Remember, the book is New Progressive English Pupils Book 8 on page 141, exercise 3. So you are supposed to rewrite these sentences using for and since for each pair. Is one sentence. That sentence, you are supposed to come up with 2 sentences. One, you must use for, and next, the number 2, you're supposed to use since. So look at this. She started singing at 1 o'clock. Now it is 4 o'clock. Let's use for. She has been singing for 3 hours. Use since. She has been singing since 1 o'clock. So that's why she started singing. At where? At 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock. Remember, since we said we have to state where something started happening, where that thing started. But when you're using for, we quote the period. How long? How long? How long? For how long? Next question. He started working at noon. It is now 6 o'clock. Let's use for. He has been working for 6 hours. He has been working for 6 hours. Use since. He has been working since noon. What time did he start working? Noon. No, remember, he started working at noon. That's the time that he started. So when you're using since, you must quote the exact time that that thing started. Let's look at more examples. We started swimming at 10 o'clock. Now it is 12 o'clock. Use for. We have been swimming for 2 hours. Since. We have been swimming since 10 o'clock. So I think now the next sentence, now we'll be able now to, now you've known now the trend. Now look at this. Prices of petrol began going up last April. Now it is July. Try that one. You pause the video, try it out, then thereafter come back and see if you got the right answer or not. But if your answer is like this, you're right. Prices of petrol have been going up for 3 months. Remember, for 3 months. That period. A period of how long? 3 months. But when did it start? Let's use since. Prices of petrol have been going up since April. This exercise, like I said before, is on page 141 in the New Progressive English Pupils Book. That's Pupils Book 8. Pupils Book 8. Let's look at from number 5 to number 10. You are supposed to write them down in exercise books. So if you have not done that exercise, please go that exercise, do the work from number 5 to number 10, then come back and check if you understood the lesson or not. Come back and check, because I'll be providing the answers. For those who answered the questions, let's go to the answers so that we can be able to see where we went wrong. So look at the sentence. I started writing the composition at 2 p.m. It is now 2:30. So let's come up with 2 sentences. Remember, the first one you must use for, the second one you use since. So I have been writing composition for 30 minutes. I have been writing composition for 30 minutes. Use since. I have been writing composition since. When did you start writing that composition? 2 p.m. So I have been writing composition since 2 p.m. Next question. They got married in 2010. It is now 2015. Use for. They have been married for 5 years. How long? 5 years. That's period. for 5 years, the period. For 5 years, that period. Since, when did they start? When did they start? When you're using since, you are stating exact time that they started. Remember, when I'm talking about time, and I don't mean in hours, minutes. No, it means it's a big thing. No, we're talking about hours, seconds, minutes, weeks, months, years. No, so when did they start? Since. They have been married since 2010. Let's look at another one. Mrs. Mokua started working at 6 o'clock. It is now 10 o'clock. Use for. Mrs. Mokua has been working for 4 hours. A period of 4 hours. Use since. Now, because now I've given you 4. Use since. Okay, if your sentence is like this, then you must be correct. Mrs. Mokua has been working since 6 o'clock. Where she started working, 6 o'clock. Next, I started peeling potatoes at 4 p.m. It is now 4:30. It is now 4:30 p.m. Use for. I have been peeling potatoes for 30 minutes. I have been peeling potatoes for 30 minutes. Use since. I have been peeling potatoes since 4 p.m. Next, she started drawing at 11 o'clock. Now it is 1 o'clock. Use for. She has been drawing for 2 hours. Next, she has been drawing since 11 o'clock. Now, I know very well now you have understood exactly what you're supposed to do. Use for and use of since. Remember, for, you are supposed to state the period. How long? But since, you are supposed to state the exact time that you started doing that thing. So look at this. They started practicing in February. It is now August. So from February to August, how long is that? Just check. How long is that? Count. February, March, April, May, June, July, August. How long? How many months are they? So let's go now to the answer. They have been practicing for 6 months. The period. What about since? They have been practicing since February. They have been practicing since February. Now, remember, we were looking at present perfect continuous. We use for and since. And what we said is that we use since to state exact time that thing started happening. The exact time. If you are saying maybe started at 4, started on Wednesday, started in January, started maybe we can say maybe started 2 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, something like that. But for, it means you are supposed to use it to quote the period. For how long? For 2 years, for 3 years, for 2 weeks, for 2 hours, something like that. So thank you for listening to me. Remember, our next subtopic will be past participle and past perfect. Goodbye and see you at past participle and past perfect. My name is Teacher Walter. Past participle. Past participle is just a past tense by itself. It's just a past tense. Remember, it ends in D, ED, T, EN, and so forth. There are very many. But what about past perfect? Past perfect is a verb tense that says something started in the past and then ended in the past. It uses the word had. But remember, it's not had been, it is had. we don't connect it to been, had been. No, it is just the word had, and it's written before the verb. It's written before the verb. Remember, I've said it does not. We don't add this word here. We don't say had been. It's just had. It's an action that started in the past and ended in the past. So let's look at some of the examples. Look at this. The winner was announced after they had counted the votes. Look, the word announced is the past participle of this word here, announced. The word announced is the past participle of the word announced. What about this one? They had counted the votes. They announced after they had counted the votes. They announced the winner. After they had counted the votes, they announced the winner. This word had counted is the past perfect of the word count. Had counted, the past perfect of the word count. Remember, we said the past perfect, we use the word had, but not had been. Had counted, had counted, had counted. Okay? So, had counted is the past perfect of the word count. There is some work that you are supposed to do in the pupils book, but this work here is already here. So our work here right now is just to identify, is it in past participle, or are we talking about the past perfect? Is it past participle or past perfect? So let's go through. Look at the first sentence. I was disturbed because I had shouted at her. Was disturbed is in past participle. Had shouted is in past perfect. I was convinced that I had seen her before. Was convinced, past participle. Had seen in past perfect. Now read this sentence and tell us this word had lost. Which word? This word here, had lost. Is it past participle or past perfect? You're right. Had lost is in past perfect. Look at this. Kemunto was surprised to find that everyone had arrived. Was surprised. How can you group that one? Was surprised. How can you group that one? Which group? Past participle or past perfect? Good. Was surprised is in past participle, and had arrived is in past perfect. Next, was defeated. Where is it? Was defeated. Yes, it is in past participle. Next, had forgotten. Had forgotten. Nobody attended the meeting. The secretary had forgotten to inform us about it. So had forgotten. Yes, it is in past perfect. Next, let's look at another one. When we arrived at the stadium, the match had started. So had started. Where is it? Yes, in past perfect. Next, we were called to school yesterday. We found that somebody had stolen our books. Look at this word. We were called. Where is it? Aha. This one is in past participle. What about this? In what? Of course, it is in past perfect. Next. When we go to the venue, most of the guests had left. So the word had left is in what? In past perfect. Lastly, number 10, the team that won the match had done enough practice. So the word had done is in what? Had done is in what? Past participle or past perfect. Now this one I'll have to leave for you to comment down there. Had done, is it in past participle or past perfect. I hope